Hi, I'm Katie Farrell. I'm an author, a registered nurse, and a mom and wife to some of the pickiest eaters on the planet. People say that eating healthy is bland and boring, but I'm here to show you a better way with wholesome, simple recipes. All of my dishes are stamped with my family's seal of approval. Think you can't eat those brownies and pasta? Think again. I'm here to share my secrets with all of you. Here's what we're cooking today on Dashing Dish. One of the most common questions I get asked at Dashing Dish is, what are your favorites? I have too many to name. Today, I'm going to share some that have become staples in our family. Italian-style stuffed red peppers, 5-ingredient grain-free chocolate muffins, and a clean eating frosty. One of the most common questions I get asked on Dashing Dish is, what is your personal favorite recipes? And with over 1,500 recipes and counting, it's really hard for me to actually pick my favorites. So I'm gonna share a few of the ones that I make commonly in my house over and over again. These are just a few of my personal staples that I have almost every day without fail. So much of my heart behind Dashing Dish comes from my personal testimony. As a teenager, I struggled with eating disorders, and it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I reached a healthy place in my body and mind. From the age of 14 into my early adulthood, I tried various methods of controlling my weight, often going from one extreme to another. In the process, I became trapped in a vicious cycle of fear and anxiety about food and my appearance. It didn't take long for me to realize that my efforts were anything but healthy, and I knew I wasn't honoring God with my body. I also knew that He was the only one that could set me free from the mindsets and behaviors that were keeping me in bondage. So I prayed and asked Him to help me break free. I began to study scripture that speaks of how marvelous He created our bodies, which transformed the way that I viewed myself from the inside out. I also started cooking as a way to rebuild a healthy relationship with food, and I became aware of the incredible ingredients that God created for us to enjoy. Instead of thinking about food as good or bad, I started to choose foods that made my body feel its best. So this first recipe is my chocolate fudge brownie muffins, and I love this recipe because it literally has 5 ingredients, not counting the salt and the baking powder because I never count salt. So to start, I have 2/3 cup of cocoa powder. I have 2/3 cup of almond flour, and almond flour is basically just ground almonds. So in a lot of my recipes, I use oat flour. In this one, I use almond flour. So I like both flours interchangeably. Almond flour is a little bit more expensive, but when I do use it, it's usually pretty sparing. This one, actually, the cocoa powder is really the star of the dish because it really makes these muffins fudgy and chocolatey, just like a brownie. Then I have 1½ teaspoon of baking powder. That's my little 4th teaspoon. We'll do 2 of those, and then 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And then I have a 4th teaspoon of salt, and that just offsets the sweetness a little bit. Then I have a 1/4 cup of, you could either use maple syrup or honey for this recipe. Then I have a 1/4 cup of applesauce, and I use unsweetened applesauce, and then just 2 eggs. And you can see how simple this is. That's why I love to make them. And a lot of times I love to make them in double batches. So I'll double the recipe and make 24 muffins, and then I'll freeze half of them. And then that way I have muffins for the next week as well. And so typically when I have these muffins is first thing in the morning. When I wake up, I usually get my day started by reading the Bible and spending time with the Lord, and I have a muffin almost every single morning. And then I have that alongside my coffee while I read. And then I get going and I get out the door and usually get a workout in, or I go in my basement and work out if it's a busy day. And then I follow that with some sort of shake. So you just want to stir this until it's all combined, and you can see that this is really fudgy. So you could technically put this in an 8x8 baking pan as well, and it probably would taste just like a brownie. But I do have a lot of brownie recipes too. So this is looking really good. Now, you just want to get those eggs incorporated. And I don't really like to break out mixers, but if you ever want to get this process going a little quicker, you could also do a mixer. I just like to use one bowl, one spatula, keep it simple. That's looking good. So now I'm just gonna pop these into muffin tins. And you know, it's hard too with my personal favorites because I'm always creating new recipes. So that's what I do for a living. So it's always changing because I'll make an updated version of something that used to be my favorite and it'll become my new favorite. So I have a triple chocolate chunk muffin that is also one of my top favorites, and a chocolate peanut butter muffin. So it was really tough to decide between all the muffins on my website, what are my favorite. But this one tops it all because like I said, I think it's just the simplicity, but also the fact that it tastes just like a brownie. As far as dinners go, it's always different for me. I really like crock pot meals, like I said, but sometimes I do 15-minute dinners because it's all that I can really think about at the end of the day is just to whip something together in 15 minutes. A lot of times for lunches, I like to have things prepped and ready to go because for me, my busiest time of day is definitely lunchtime. So I like to have, like I said, salads or soups or chilies that are already made ahead of time in the fridge. That way I can just grab them out, make them, and I have something ready to go because I usually need something really fast at lunch. Dinner, I have a little bit more time, but still 15 minutes is great, or something that I can pull out of the crock pot. So I'm gonna put these in the oven and then I'm gonna get started on my favorite breakfast, which is my Frosty. What if instead of thinking about what you can't eat, you changed your focus to how food makes your body feel? Instead of cutting out the foods you love most, find healthy versions of your favorites and notice how good it feels to nourish your body with delicious foods that God created. So this Frosty, even though it's called a Frosty, is actually just a protein shake. So what I like to do is I like to start almost all of my protein shakes, smoothies, any kind of shake that I make with either cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, or a banana, or you could do a combination. And what that does is it gets everything flowing in the blender really nicely. It makes everything really creamy, and cottage cheese is also really great as far as protein. Then I have one banana, and you could do a fresh banana or frozen. If you do frozen, just make sure you cut it up. And if you don't know what a Frosty is, let me tell you. When I was in college, I was just about addicted to Frosties, and I had no idea how much sugar they had in them. So they're from Wendy's, and they're these chocolatey, rich, delicious, it almost tastes like a chocolate milkshake. And so I would go, there was one on campus, I would walk to it almost every day between classes, and I would think that, oh, this is probably okay for you because, you know, it's low fat, and they advertised it that way, and I didn't know that it had almost 50 grams of sugar. And so when I realized that was just about the time in my life when I started to really think about eating healthy. I just created my own at home. And the cottage cheese in here you do not taste at all, or if you use Greek yogurt. But if you can't do dairy at all, you could just do 2 bananas. You just want something to kind of blend up to be really nice and thick and creamy. So I did 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, and then I did 2 tablespoons of sweetener. So really it's up to you as far as what type of sweetener you like. And then I have some almond milk here, but you could do any kind of milk that you like. And I didn't add protein powder to this recipe. You could if for a little bit more protein, especially if you're just doing bananas. But since I did cottage cheese, it already has plenty of protein, so I didn't do any. You could also do some peanut flour if you'd like. And then I'm just gonna kind of eyeball how much almond milk to add. Usually I do a cup or 2 of ice, and then a cup or 2 of almond milk. And that gets everything going in the blender really nicely. So I'm gonna start the blender. That looks perfect. And you can see how creamy and delicious this looks. So this made a lot. So you could use a really big cup and you could eat it like that, or you could serve it into 2 servings. And like I said, it's really up to your personal taste and preference with sweeteners, and also protein powder, peanut flour. A lot of times I like to start my day off with a lot of protein, just to help my insulin levels be balanced out, and it's a really good thing to have some protein and some whole grains. So you start out your day with a muffin, go work out, come back, have a shake and replenish, and then get going from there with a really great day. And you'll feel really good too. So when I come back, I'm gonna make one of my absolute favorite dinners. And if you love comfort food, Italian food, but you don't like all the hassle that goes with it, you'll love this recipe, so stay tuned. Today's show is all about my personal favorites, and I'm making one of my personal favorite dinners, which is Italian stuffed red peppers. I have different color peppers here today, so you can use any kind of colors you like. And I also have Sean here with me today.
Hello.
Because I thought it would be fun for him to ask me some questions that you guys sent in to get to know my heart behind Dashing Dish, and also a little bit just fun questions about us to get to know us better. So I'm just browning up 1 pound of ground turkey in a pan. And while I do that, I'm gonna kind of add things as it cooks off. So I have garlic powder. I'm gonna do a ½ teaspoon of that, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, which is kind of like a binder and it also adds a lot of flavor. So I didn't even add salt to this dish. And then a jar of marinara sauce. So whatever kind of marinara you like, or spaghetti sauce, is perfect in this dish. Really, really simple. And then I did a 10-ounce package of spinach. I just did chopped spinach, frozen, and then I thawed it and kind of squeezed out the excess water. So I'm gonna let this brown, and I'm gonna add all of these ingredients while Sean gets started on the questions for me.
So
what do you got for me?
So we have some questions from Facebook and from Instagram, and I'll kind of read through these. And so the first one's from Loretta, and she asked, what are your thoughts on diets?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, so since Dashing Dish is all about living a healthy lifestyle, a lot of times people write in and ask me questions about what I think about dieting. I get that question at least once a week, I'd say. And usually it's about specific diets. And I always say, if it's something that you can maintain long term, so I'm talking the rest of your life, then go for it. You know, sometimes there are dietary changes or specific needs that people have. I'm not against a plan. I'm not against something that helps you on your journey to health. However, a lot of times diets are really unbalanced, and so it's only something you can maintain short term. And what happens when you get off that diet or that plan is usually it backfires on you. So like there's a lot of just don't eat carbs, don't eat this or that. And I always say, when's the last time someone was unhealthy from eating apples or berries? You know, and so it's all about balance and also just common sense. I always think about what did God create for us to eat, and then encourage you to go after those types of foods in balance, everything in moderation, and that's what we're about here at Dashing Dish.
Yeah, that's good. And so I have one here from Amy, and she asked, do you have a favorite recipe on Dashing Dish?
Oh, that's
a lot of recipes.
That's what we talked about today. Is I really have a hard time because I'm always creating new ones.
Well, what about your favorite baking recipe? If you had to pick a baking recipe.
Well, I just made my 5-ingredient chocolate fudge muffins, so that has to be one of my favorite baking. But really, anything with chocolate, peanut butter, sweets. I love sweets. So any of the sweets on Dashing Dish. I also have some no-bake peanut butter bars that I made in one of the segments here at Dashing Dish, and those are also a top favorite of mine. And I also love anything that doesn't require a lot of dishes and a lot of time. I'm always on the go, Maddie's at my feet, so I need things that are quick and easy like this.
Yeah, no, that's true. Andrea, she asked, do I taste test everything before it goes onto the site?
Well,
and I can answer that, yes. I would say 90%.
And also, as far as that goes, usually I don't give him the option. I just kind of shove something in his mouth with the spoon and I say, taste this. He doesn't even know what it is when he's getting it. But that's a really good way of just really getting an honest opinion, and I always call him my picky 2-year-old, so really get to see, is this recipe a go for Dashing Dish? And you know, I don't always let that be the determining factor. I do have an actual 2-year-old as well that will tell me what she thinks. So usually what I do is I weigh it between Sean, Maddie, sometimes my sister Emily, and her husband Brad. I'll kind of get a feel from a lot of people and say, all right, what do you think about this one? What about the salt in this dish? All of those questions that you would ask about a recipe. And if it's mostly acceptable, then I'll put it on Dashing Dish by all my picky eaters.
That's funny, yeah. So Jessica, she asked, what are some of the challenges that you faced with getting Maddie to eat healthy?
Oh, that's...
And Maddie's a really good eater.
At first, she was a very picky eater. And to be honest, it put me in tears a few times because I thought, how is it? I actually felt like it was God almost like smiling at me thinking, okay, here you love to cook and you were all excited to make all this baby food and she spits everything out. And I'm like, don't you know your mom is Dashing Dish? I love to cook for a living and you won't eat anything. But it took a lot of patience. I actually just had to give her things in small doses just again and again. And what I would do is I would try it in different ways. So like sweet potatoes she hated. She was like spitting them out. So I tried them crispy and roasted up as French fries and of course dipped in ketchup. And then she loved them. So I think it just took a lot of patience and diligence. I had to retry a lot of recipes. So I'm just gonna say that you see how the meat got cooked off and browned. Then I added everything else to this saute pan. And now I'm just cooking it until the sauce thickens a little bit. So it's getting nice and thick. And really, the sauce is just looking great. Then you'll know that this is time to put into the peppers. When I look at my 2-year-old daughter, I'm reminded of the freedom we were given to enjoy our bodies just as they are. At some point, whether it be in our teen or adult years, or even for some of us as a child, most of us learn that at some point our bodies are somehow imperfect and we become ashamed of them. If you can remember back to when you started to feel that your body was anything less than beautiful, make today the day that you decide to celebrate and embrace the body that God designed for you. It's completely unique and exclusively yours. No two people look quite the same, and God never intended us to. He's a master artist, and He carefully picked out every detail when He created you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut just the tops off of the peppers. And again, you can use any color that you like. I just have what the supermarket had on hand. And just cut the tops off like this. How I like to do this is I take a really sharp paring knife. I just take it around the top and then I pull the whole top off. And then that takes the peppers seeds right out. And then you just take anything, a measuring cup, a big spoon, even a ladle, and you just scoop the filling right into the peppers. So go ahead, what else do you got for me?
You got one more?
A few more.
Okay. We have Lauren asked, what is your favorite meal of the day?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think I know the answer.
What do you think it is?
I'd have to say breakfast.
You got it. So,
you and your shake.
Yes, just like I said, I love sweets. So I'm gonna turn the heat off here because it's cooked to my liking. You really just wanna get it till the sauce is nice and thick and bubbly. So I love sweets. So I start my day off with a muffin that tastes like a brownie and a shake that tastes like a Frosty. So of course, that's the best part of the day. Plus, I love my workouts and I love spending time with the Lord. So in general, mornings are my favorite time of day. And usually I wake up really early, like 5 o'clock, so I can get some time alone before the whole house is up, before my 2-year-old is up. And
before I'm up.
Usually,
she's talking about me.
Usually Sean gets up shortly after me, so.
And let's see. Sarah, she asked, can you describe a normal day in the life of Dashing Dish?
Oh, that's a good question. So it's always different. At Dashing Dish, Sean and I work together from home. So it's always a little bit different depending on what we're working on. So usually I'm making recipes on a typical day. And you know, a lot of times people ask me, how many times do you have to make a recipe before it actually turns out? And to be honest, I always say, all my glory goes back to God because He gives me the wisdom. It's not very often that I have to remake recipes. Usually it's one time if I have to redo it.
Yeah.
They always seem to just turn out. And I'm like, that's totally God right there. But usually I'm making recipes and I do it really far in advance. So like in the summer, I'm already making Christmas recipes and doing a lot of computer work. So emails, writing blog posts, things like that. And then Sean's designing for Dashing Dish. So he's making everything look pretty. I'm always like, Sean, I need a graphic. Where are you? I need a graphic for this. Okay, so now I'm just gonna top these with a little bit of cheese. You could do Parmesan or mozzarella, and then it'll melt in the oven. Oh, you're gonna help me, wow, thank you. Such a gentleman. So I'm gonna bake these 425 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. Really, you just want the peppers to get soft. You could even put them in the crock pot, you know, if you're just waiting to have them for dinner, and the peppers will get nice and soft. That's really all you're looking for since the filling is cooked through. Thanks so much for joining me. I think we should go have our Frosties.
Sounds good to me.
And you can ask me some more questions.
Sounds good.
Our bodies, soul, and spirit are a gift from God. He wants to partner with us in our journey to health. Are there any areas that you need to invite Him in? Okay, so what other questions do you have for me?
Okay.
Give me one really good one.
Okay, well, I have two really good ones. This one is Kathy asked, what's the best way to convert recipes into clean eating?
Oh, that's a really good question. I get asked all the time, if I were to do just one thing to live a healthier lifestyle, what would it be? And in my opinion, the best thing that you could do is take white sugar and white flour out of your diet completely. And I don't think that you need to completely eliminate sweets, obviously we have them here, or any kind of baked good altogether just because you're taking out white flour and white sugar. I just always say find better options that are nourishing to your body and make you feel better than the processed foods.
Yeah, that's good, that's good.
And so let me ask you, since I know today has been all about Katie's show, I have to ask you, what's your personal favorite on Dashing Dish?
My favorite recipe?
Yep.
That's a tough one. I'd probably have to say the easy cheesy burritos that you've made.
Yep.
Those are probably by far my favorite.
And I think he loves those because it was a recipe that I created, a spin-off of his mom's. So I just made them a little bit healthier. And that's why I love these Italian stuffed peppers. It's a spin-off of what I grew up eating, which was a lot of comfort food like lasagnas and casseroles, but it's a healthier version. It's a great way to get your veggies in and really simple to make. And then who doesn't love chocolate and Frosties? So if you want to see recipes just like this, then head over to dashingdish.com and maybe you'll try a few tried and true favorites of ours and they'll become yours as well.